Good afternoon. So, welcome to an impromptu Facebook Live where Harry and I are going to talk you through our top 12 tips on how to protect your income personally. What can you do personally to protect your money while we're in this horrible crisis? So, we are in times like none of us have ever known before. This is extraordinary times and unfortunately calls for some extraordinary measures. So our objective as entrepreneurs is to keep hold of our cash and keep it for as long as humanly possible. So our priority over the next few months, amongst other things of course, is to try and keep hold of our cash and conserve it so far as we can. Now, I did see in another Facebook group, a friend of mine used the tagline that now is the time for hope, courage, and common sense. And I really liked that. I think that's quite apt in these sort of bizarre times that we're in. So, what can we do? You'd have seen on the news the mortgage companies should all be allowing us to take a 3-month interest-free payment holiday. This isn't free money, which I've seen people suggesting in many other groups. The loans are still liable and we'll still have to pay interest on them eventually. We just don't have to pay interest for the foreseeable for the next three months. Some lenders, most lenders, are allowing complete payment holidays so that you don't have to pay the capital and the interest, and some are just encouraging an interest only holiday. So what you need to do is take that mortgage break. If it's offered by your lender, and most of them are, take that mortgage break and start conserving cash. Boris Johnson has said it's available to everybody, so take it now. But the banks are overwhelmed with requests, so they may not be able to answer your calls. Some banks, like mine, Barclays, is even suggesting that you don't call them. They're specifically texting us all and asking them not to call them. What they are doing is putting online application forms on their website so that customers who need the payment holidays can register. I guess they're expecting that if you don't actually need a payment holiday and you've got enough savings to support yourself, you don't need to worry about it. But the majority of people probably will apply for that payment holiday. If you think your income is going to be at risk during this crisis, do apply now.
And likewise, if you're renting, do exactly the same. Talk to your landlords, see what they have available. Now, the mortgage holiday has also been extended to the buy-to-let scheme as well. So hopefully, you would have thought that landlords would actually be passing on the savings to the actual tenants themselves. But not all landlords do actually have buy-to-let properties. So for some of them, it's pretty much just their income. So the message of this is basically how to talk with your landlord, see what they can offer, and see if you can get a little break in rent, because everyone's in the same situation, to be fair.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? So I think the thing to be really mindful of is take that money that you are not paying for your mortgage or for any of the other bills that you're able to reduce. Don't spend it, but move it into another savings account. Keep it away from your main current account and stockpile it. So you're basically saving to make sure that you've got enough cash to last you through this crisis. And if you find that we get to the end and you haven't spent that cash, then of course you'd probably want to pay all those debts up and put your mortgage back to rights, pay your bills, that kind of thing. But in the meantime, what we would recommend is point number three is to cancel any payments or direct debits to your credit cards. Now, call your credit card companies. Again, they're going to be overwhelmed with calls, so you might stay on hold for a while and you might have to be super patient, but call them and try and get payment freezes or 0% interest. So the more we're hearing of people who are doing this, the more positive news we're hearing that the mortgage companies, the lenders, the credit card companies are all putting interest freezes in place, which is really good news. So most lenders have said there will be no late or missed payment penalties or black marks against your credit ratings during this current crisis. So that's also really, really good news. Now, if you've got the cash and you want to pay some or part of your credit card bills, then at least if you cancel the direct debit, you can still make the payment if you wanted to, but you've got more control over it.
Yeah, choose when, choose how much.
Exactly.
And likewise, same thing for loan providers. So it doesn't just extend to credit cards, but as Lisa mentioned earlier, lenders, you might be able to get a 0% interest rate freeze. So if you can get it, wonderful. definitely do take the opportunity to have a conversation with them, but do cancel your direct debit first so that, once again, you're in control of what's going out. Otherwise, you're a little bit more restricted.
Yeah, loan companies I've heard are not all of them are being quite as friendly. So at least if you
Yeah,
cancel your
that was
direct debit,
surprising.
you've got the choice as to whether you pay or not. Um, Move all the cash into a savings account so it's there when you need it. Now, Boris Johnson has talked about this 12-week period before we start getting back to normal. So it might seem like you've got enough cash now. What we
Mhm.
would strongly recommend is that you do a proper cash flow forecast and look at your income versus your outgoings. What happens if your income drops, or if your income, just drops a little bit? I mean, I think most companies are going to try to maintain payments to staff throughout this crisis, but what if they can't? What if their customers are not paying them? So we don't really know quite how deeply we're all going to be cut by this process yet. So conserve your cash where you can.
Definitely be able to have the reserves.
Mm.
Um, so point number 6, if you're self-employed but you're reliant on footfall, start the application process for universal tax credits and get the account set up. It does take about 5 weeks for universal tax credits to come through, so better to start it sooner than
Mm.
later. But some people have been reporting instant cash for emergency loans.
Yeah, for
So
those
if
that are
you are
super afflicted.
yeah.
Mm.
So if you are at risk of running out of cash to feed your family in that time frame, definitely do start the application form now. Makes a massive, massive difference.
Yeah. Now start applying. Point number 7, or tip number 7, is to start applying for payment holidays on your utilities. I suspect these will come automatically soon, but in the meantime, call your utility providers and see what they can do. Now, this is one area where people have been reporting that they're not as flexible as perhaps you might expect them to be. So, again, I would cancel your direct debits. It doesn't mean to say that you can't pay them when the bills come through, but if you have a choice whether to pay them or not, then you've got more chance of conserving your cash while you need it.
Mm. And speaking of conserving cash, point number 8, go through your bank and credit card statement and stop all non-essential subscriptions and payments. So it might be, I don't know, I'm going to use Netflix, but I don't think Netflix is a great example in this time.
Well, no, Netflix and
But
Xbox Live have reported an increase in subscriptions, but that's
yeah,
one of the things. It's a small value, isn't it? So for most people, it adds tremendous amounts of value, but takes a little bit of cash out of your bank.
it
But
does.
have a look at the other subscriptions that you've got, and do you need them all? Is there stuff there that you don't really use? Now's the time to cut those subscriptions and get rid of them.
I tell you
But
what, the right business at the moment.
yeah,
Blimey.
but do think about any small business suppliers and those that rely on footfall. Your hairdresser, your physio, your acupuncturist, your local florist, the butcher, people that rely on footfall trade to actually maintain their income and pay their own bills. Now,
Mm.
if you still want to see your favourite small business suppliers there in 3 months' time, perhaps don't cancel your payments to them. Perhaps you pay for an appointment with your hairdressers, but you won't be able to go maybe in the short term, but maybe you then take them up on that later on and you defer your appointment. But think about keeping those small businesses, the high street businesses, going and helping them throughout this process.
Yeah, because if you claw back all of your payments, if you have made any deposits, it's going to hit them immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the trouble that they're going to have is filling their seats and getting enough people through their doors. I mean, they're going to be benefiting from sort of rent and rate rebates and things like that, but they're still going to have utilities to pay. They've still got staff to pay. Um, it's not going to be easy for small high street suppliers and keeping them going. So if there's someone that you really like, your local hairdresser, your butcher, whatever, think about how you can help them maintain their business. But I would say don't pay things like the banks and the taxis and credit card companies and the people that will be supplied, that will survive and will be shored up by the government.
Exactly that. So we will be keeping on top of any changes in the current provisions, and basically we'll keep an eye out for what other people are doing in the small business community as well. So we'll be keeping this up to date, and we'll update you with anything we find which, as we
Yeah, is
mentioned
a bit
in
more
previous
helpful
videos,
than.
is relevant to
Yeah.
people.
So, what to do with all this extra time? One of the things that I've been doing this morning is unsubscribing from those really annoying lists that you don't want to be part of, instead of keep skipping them over them to deal with later, and make sure everything that's in my inbox actually has value. So, I'm trying to make my time and the things that are distracting me more valuable, and so that I'm not distracted by the rubbish.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And if you also have a little bit of spare time, maybe learn a skill. So it's all about using your time wisely. I mean, if we've got so much time abundance, we might as well put it to good use, because we want to actually hit the ground rolling when things are a little bit more back to normal. So it might be worth taking up a new skill and maybe take an online lesson
Mm.
or join an online exercise class, or just anything really. I mean, Joe Wicks at the moment is doing an online exercise class every Monday to Friday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube. So
Yeah, I think it's
on
9
there,
a.m. he said. But I also look for local people who are doing that, local sort of virtual exercise classes. So Joe Wicks is obviously, a huge name and everybody knows him, but he probably has enough cash to survive through the next 2 to 3 months. But what about the local suppliers that don't? So I would say, even if you're going online, still try and go online, but shop locally and support your local small business.
yeah,
So, and
very,
keep your routines, eat healthily, watch out for snacks. I don't know about you, but we keep going out and buying quarantine snacks and then bringing them home and eating them all. So we'll be the size of
yeah.
houses by the time we're finished. So, and now
Quarantines
is the time for
last
fresh
quarantine,
air and family time.
definitely.
Yes, so that's all from us today. We'll be back, might be over the weekend, probably on Monday, and we'll update you with everything else that we've learned about what's going on at the moment. So
Hmm?
we'll see you soon. Bye
Take
for
care, everyone.
now.
Bye.